Hey, what's up, guys? This is Marseille, aka the Property Pastor, coming at you with another amazing video. Our vision and our mission here at the Property Pastor is to unlock the secrets of wealth building through real estate investing. And today I want to actually walk you through a deal that we just did, a full rehab, a full BRRRR deal that we went through and rehabbed our property. We got it rented out, we refinanced it, and then we're getting ready to repeat it. So I actually want to take some time out today to walk you through all the numbers, tell you the ins and outs of the deal so that you can see this firsthand. This is something that we're actually doing here in Hampton, Newport News area of Virginia, and I want to give you guys that great insight and information for your own purposes and to help you out on your journey. But before we jump into the numbers, I want to remind you to make sure that you like and subscribe to our page. By liking and subscribing, you're going to get keyed into to brand new videos as we release them. We're releasing multiple videos every single week to show you the ins and outs of real estate investing to help you on your journey. So that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the deal. I do have up here on the whiteboard, we're going to be kind of walking through some numbers and some of the calculations. This here is actually a actual analysis that I used BRRRR, which is an amazing tool, a resource I definitely recommend for you. This is a phenomenal tool that just kind of runs through all the numbers. You can type it all into to their calculator and it'll pop out and give you actually everything you need to analyze your deal. So I used to use Excel to do everything that when I first got started, but BRRRR is taking a lot of that work out of it, a lot of the guesswork, a lot of the, all the different calculations and stuff, and they pretty much just give it to you. So I'm going to kind of be using that to kind of walk us through through our numbers here today. But basically, this deal was a duplex, right? So the property type was actually a duplex, 2 units actually. Honestly, from a duplex perspective, we went in and purchased this price for $33,500, which was a steal. We actually purchased it from a handyman that I know in the area. He basically was getting ready to retire, and so this was off market, no real estate agents involved and things of that nature. But it needed a lot of work, so we went into it. Oh, and before I forget, just so you guys know, if you're new to BRRRR, right? BRRRR, which is basically BRRRR, it stands for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and then repeat, right? So we've got that all listed out up here, but we're going to kind of just walk through those numbers. So like I was saying, we bought the property for $33,500. Basically just went in and did an owner financing or seller finance. If you're not familiar with that, I got some videos to talk about that financing method. But we went in, we put $10,000 down, which was very doable. It was kind of a win-win for both of us. He was able to get his money right away, but wasn't pressed to get the whole $33,500. So we basically did a 3-year term, interest only type of deal, right? So, but the purchase price, like I said, was $33,500. We did $50,000 in rehab cost on this deal. So the rehab cost was actually more than the property itself cost. So like I said, this has been the probably the most extensive rehab that we've done so far in 2+ years of doing deals. I'm up to 6 properties, working on number 7 right now. But this particular one right here, it really stretched the my experience base. I grew a lot through it. Had to work with a lot of different contractors and things like that. But hey, try new things, right? So this one, like I said, we bought it for $33,500. We put $50,000 into it, and the rehab time period was about 15 months. Now, the nice part about BRRRR is that it is very similar to flipping a house. And many people, you watch the HGTV shows, you talk about flipping homes and all that kind of stuff. The big difference with BRRRR is that after the rehab is done, basically it gets rented out and you refinance it instead of selling it, right? So I basically flip the house back to myself, take the profits from that and reinvest it into the next deal. Now, the big difference with BRRRR, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, is that the profits or the refi money is tax-free. So if you're doing a flip per se, that money you got to deal with capital gains and all that kind of stuff. So one of the benefits of BRRRR is that we basically get the money back ourselves, and we also have an asset that's producing cash flow for us. So nonetheless, our deal took us about 15 months to rehab. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we did this deal with a seller finance contract basically, and it was an interest-only loan. So the interest rate on this deal was 7%. We had three total years to basically cash out our original seller. So it's plenty of time, nothing to really worry about. And my payment each month was $150. Now with this being a duplex, I had one unit that was pretty much rent ready. So we went ahead and put a tenant in that unit and then spent the rest of the time rehabbing the upper unit or the upstairs unit. So basically we're able to cover all of our expenses, and to kind of take our time with the rehab. So I had a lot of different properties going on at this time, so I wasn't overly pressed, overly worried about getting it done. But and it was a lot to do in terms of the rehab itself. So far we got 50K in from a rehab perspective, 15 months to do that work. So our total upfront cost, the purchase price of $33,500 and the 50K of rehab, gives us a total upfront cash outlay of $83,500. Now bear in mind, we only paid $10,000 down on the property. So really, instead of it being $83,500, our true cash outlay was $63,500. After we're done all the work, our ARV, or after repair value, went up to $110,000, right, which is pretty good. So basically we put $83,500 in it, and generated almost $30K in extra value, right? So that was a good benefit. So the ARV, or after repair value, was $110,000 on this property, and that was through an appraisal. We'll talk about what appraisals are in a separate video. If you're not familiar with them, just post those comments, those questions down in the comment section, and we'll walk through and get your questions answered, right? So at this point, we've completed the rehab, right? So the rehab is done. We got two rent-ready units. So then, from that standpoint, we proceeded and got that unit rented out. So once we got it rented out, we were able to rent out both units for a total combined income of $1,640, $1,640 per month, right? So from that, though, that's not all pure profit, because we've got expenses. So let's take a look and let's dig into some of the expense numbers. Want to kind of give you exactly what we have for this property, as well as some general guidelines that you can look at when you're analyzing deals for yourself. So first thing we looked at is vacancy. So I typically calculate about 5% vacancy. So for this property, that came out to be about $82 a month. Additionally, we always budget for repairs. Things are going to happen. You're going to have a sewer line clog up. You have toilet issues. You're going to have, whatever. Anything that comes up, we got to get the maintenance man out there to fix it. So those repairs are generally about $82 a month, also at 5%. Repairs can range anywhere from 5 to 8, even upwards of 10%, depending on the age of the property. Now, because we just rehabbed this property, we can be, we don't have to put a lot into repair, because we've already done a lot of work to get the unit up. So it's almost like a brand new unit after the rehab. So only looking at about 5% of an expense standpoint for repairs. Now we've got insurance. So for us, insurance was right at $96 a month. I guess that works out to be about maybe 6% what our total our total income amount or whatever it is. So we had 6% justified, or 6% allocated, or cost of $96 a month for insurance. So for property management, we pretty much calculate about 10%. So we allocate 10% there, which works out to be about $164 a month. Now, I recommend you always have a property manager. Even if you self-manage the property, you still want to pay yourself, because at some point as your portfolio grows, you cannot keep up with the total amount of properties that you're going to have to deal with. So definitely having a property manager is good. You don't want to be that person always fielding the calls at 3 o'clock in the morning, when the sewer line is backed up, or toilet's not working, or a light bulb needs to be fixed, or whatever that looks like. You want to outsource that task, right? So we always allocate 10% for property management. Next, we have taxes. Now, taxes are going to vary by where you live and based on what the different rates are for wherever you're living at. But for us, taxes worked out to be about $111 a month. And then we have what we call Capex. Capex is something that's basically what I consider like a rainy day fund for your property. So you're going to have things that come up on the property, like the AC unit may go out, the roof may need to be repaired. These are just large, big ticket items that can, if you don't save up for them, they can ruin your cash flow, they can ruin your reserve. So I always budget a certain amount every month for that. So I always budget 10%. Now in this particular property, a lot of the stuff is brand new, so we probably don't need quite that much, but it's a pad, and I try to be very conservative, because that way I can have a good chance of success and really feel confident in the investment. So this particular property I budgeted $164 a month, or 10%, to go over to Capex. The nice part about Capex as well is that once your portfolio grows to a certain amount, you don't need to have these massive cash reserves for every single property. So you're not going to have all your AC units go out at the same time across 10 properties. That's very rare, if ever happens. So but you get into that place of just banking up that money or saving up that money to a certain point where you got enough built up That's what Capex is all about. The last expense is mortgage, which is going to be your principal, mortgage principal, and mortgage interest. So we're looking at about $454 a month after we refinance the property. So that's based on what we took out, and I'll talk about that here in a second. So once we add up all those expenses, they total out to be $1,153. Okay, which gives us a monthly cash flow of $487 per month. Not bad, right? Not bad. Now this is, I typically like my properties to make at least $500 a month. So this is just a hair short, but based on where the numbers will fall, 500 is pretty reasonable, pretty doable, especially where the capex is. So what you see right now, so at this point we have completed our rehab. We have gone through and got our unit rented out, where we understand what our cash flow is at this point. And now we've refinanced it and we're ready to repeat the process. But I do want to run through the overall, high level summary of the property, right? So what we did with the loan was I took out a $75,000 loan on this property. Now a bank is typically going to give you 75% of your loan to value ratio. So whatever the value of the property is, they were willing to loan you up to 75% of that property, right? So that, remember, we had an ARV. We appraised at 100. This property appraised at 110K. Now 75,000 is not quite 75% loan to value. It's really more around 70%. So I had extra room that I could have pulled more cash out of the property if I wanted to. But based on where I wanted the cash flow to be, I kind of buffer, drop my number down. And all that does, it just gives me more equity in the property. So I was able to achieve my goals from a cash flow perspective, also from getting my money back out and being able to repeat the process all over again with a loan of $75,000. Now we were able to get a really good rate on this property of 5.6%, which is pretty good for a commercial loan. Those can range anywhere from 6 to 8%. Sometimes you get them 4 or 5. You're going to typically pay a higher premium, if you're dealing with an LLC and things of that nature versus in your personal name. So we did have some closing costs here, which were about $4,000. Basically, just roll those into the loan. So our overall loan amount was about $79K. Was able to spread this over the course of 30 years. Put a 30-year note on it. And the nice part about real estate investing is that your tenants are actually the ones that are paying the note for you. So as long as you got tenants, your notes are being paid. So that's a nice thing there. So, and then ultimately we were able to generate about 38,000. I think it was actually $33,000 in equity. So $30,000+ in equity generated, positive cash flow, a new performing asset, and money to basically go back in and do it all. So just to recap the property overall, recap the deal overall, we've gotten $487 a month in monthly cash flow, $30,000+ in equity. Our true out-of-pocket cost after it was all said and done was about $7,500, and that gives us a cash ROI of 77.9% or 78%, just to make it easy. So that's not bad, right? So I invest in the stock market and things like that, and if I get 10%, I'm knocking it out of the park. But here we've got almost an 80% return on our investment. So that's what makes real estate such a phenomenal investment to go with, right? So when you look at it from what I put into it up front, we had kind of a high cash outlay, but we got pretty much all of that back with the exception of about $7,500. If I had chosen to go after more of the equity, basically that number would have driven down to just about nothing. So when you look at the deal overall, we accomplished all the goals that were set out to do from the BRRRR analysis standpoint. So once I pay off my initial seller, because remember I put down $10,000, I had an original note of $33,500, right? So at this point, I've got $23,500 that I got to pay back to the original seller, and after that's said and done, from this $75,000 that I pulled out, that delta goes back in my pocket, right? And the nice part about that, just to look at the BRRRR analysis, the BRRRR method overall, some of the really good things about it is, like I mentioned earlier, it's tax-free, right? So there are no taxes that have to be paid on the money that's pulled back out at the refinance, which is phenomenal because basically you're just recycling the money and using it for the next deal. And that's the wonderful part of being able to scale, and the wonderful part of being able to basically add value, create value, hold on to an asset, right? That's now a cash flowing asset. So when it's all said and done, that's really what you want to be able to do. So from a tax-free perspective, that's phenomenal. Leverage is also a great aspect of real estate, from a standpoint of going in, putting in $7,500 and then getting $487 a month back from that. It'll take me no time to pay myself back. All right, and then after that, it's just constantly generating positive cash flow. Passive income is what you want. So leverage is a phenomenal tool to be used in real estate, and that's why I love it so much. And then the other thing is, like I said, out-of-pocket costs. Remember, I only really, when it's all said and done, the out-of-pocket costs to me are only about $7,500. You can't beat that, right? You really can't beat that from an investment standpoint. But BRRRR is not for everyone, and BRRRR is definitely not a beginner investing strategy. I wouldn't consider it an advanced one, but I definitely would not consider it a big beginner one. Some of the cons, right, are the amount of time that it takes. For me, it took me 15 months to totally finish this deal. Granted, if I was really grinding and hustling on this, working on it every day, pushing contractors and things like that, I probably could have got the deal done, got the project done in maybe about a month or two, if I was really going after it really hot and heavy. But I wasn't pressed because I had a lot of other things going on at the time. But BRRRRs can take up a decent amount of time, especially when you don't have a lot of resources. For me, I'm a pastor, I'm a father, I work a full-time job, and I do real estate as my side hustle, right? But for me, one of the cons is definitely the time. Another con that's associated is the amount of experience that it takes to be successful doing these kind of deals. You got to have experience in construction. You got to have experience. So I had to pull in from multiple arenas for this deal. I had to pull in a construction background. I had to manage contractors. I had to have enough knowledge to be able to do off-market real estate deal without the assistance of the real estate agents and things of that nature. Some of the traditional stuff you go with when you go, through a regular real estate agent and turnkey investing. So a lot of experience and skill, some level of skill is needed to be able to pull this off. Working with the city, getting permits pulled, working with inspectors, correcting issues inspectors find, all that kind of stuff. Just a lot of different moving parts that came with this particular deal. So experience is definitely a plus. Not to say don't let that stop you, but it's definitely one thing that you have to bring to the table or learn along the way. If you do take on a BRRRR deal for one of your first deals, I would highly recommend, have someone look over that deal, find yourself a mentor, just have somebody that's going to be helping you. And the wonderful part about real estate is that typically these are things that someone else has already done. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you do need to bring some experience or at least hook up with somebody who has some. Like I mentioned, dealing with contractors can be a headache. It can definitely be a headache. You got some good contractors who are worth their weight in gold. They're worth every dime you spend. And then you have some other ones that you wish you never met, right? So this project, I probably had a mix of both. But that's just what you deal with out here. And I believe firmly that you don't lose, you learn, right? So dealing with contractors can be a hassle if you don't have the stomach for it. You don't have the the skills and the organization, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't mean you can't learn it. Right, but that's just one of the things that you're going to have to deal with if you step into the BRRRR analysis, into the BRRRR arena. And then the other thing is just the high upfront cost. So remember, we put $10,000 down to get it, but then from a rehab perspective, we had to come out another $50,000. Now, most people don't have that just sitting around, right? But there are a lot of ways to find those funds. There are hard money lenders. There are private lenders out here who would love to basically loan you $50,000 at 8 to 10% interest guaranteed money for a short-term loan. So there are ways to get it done. So don't feel like if you only have, $8,000 or whatever the case is, and I can't do one of these deals. Knowledge will get you a lot of places that money won't, right? So it's all about what you bring to the table, how much creativity you bring and whatnot. But you can get a deal like this done. So I wanted to run you, this is kind of just an overview of the BRRRR method and an actual property, an actual project that we just finished up. Wanted to show you guys the numbers, run you through it so that you could build this tool and add this tool to your toolbox. Hey, look, if you got questions, make sure you post them down in the comment section. I want to get them answered for you. I want to help you in your journey. Like I said, our mission here is to unlock the secrets of wealth building through real estate investing. And I am cheering for you, wishing you nothing but the best success. And until the next video, I can't wait to see you guys again. God bless you. Love you. Thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless.